The Boston Marathon is the world's oldest annual marathon. Since 1897, this legendary race draws elite athletes, passionate runners, and enthusiastic spectators from all around the globe. It's a celebration of determination, resilience, and the unbreakable human spirit. Please join me on this marathon getaway as I explore the energy of the Boston Marathon and experience some unforgettable moments. This is the YouTube channel of the Marathon Running Podcast. My name is Letty. Thank you for joining me. All right, so my trip to Boston started on Thursday. My husband and I are very good about giving each other time to do things that we like to do. So he took me to the airport 4 days prior to the marathon and took care of the kids, which was amazing. It's always nice to have some time to yourself as a mom. I feel like it makes us a better person. So like I said, my flight was on Thursday evening. I was supposed to get into Boston at 9 o'clock, but there were storms on the East Coast, so our flight was delayed by 3.5 hours. And that would cause me to not get into Boston until 1 o'clock in the morning. All right, so we finally landed in Boston. It feels like I've been traveling from Europe, but I have not. It's only been a 3.5 hour flight. But it's after midnight and I need to sleep. I'm very lucky that my friend Wes is currently living in Boston doing a locum. So he was able and willing to pick me up. Of course, on the way to his place, we chatted way too much that we extended the drive by probably an hour because we kept getting lost. But it was yet a fun time and I was lucky to have a place to stay for the first night. The next day, I was on my way to the Sheraton hotel. I just wanted to have them check my luggage, but very luckily and very surprisingly, they had a room ready at 8:30 in the morning. So huge shout out to Sheraton. I unpacked my stuff. I love unpacking right away so I can feel more like home, and went to attend my first event. Stopping by Dunkin' Donuts first though, because I really felt like I wanted to have a bagel and some coffee. I was starving. I hadn't had any food in a really long time, and although I don't think coffee works for me, I felt like it was a good taste given that the weather was so cold outside, right? So to give you guys a little bit of an overview, there are 3 hotels that connect with sky bridges, which is the Sheraton, which connects to the Marriott, which then connects to the Westin Hotel. All 3 of those hotels are available through marathon tours for the Boston weekend on a discount. And so usually I try to get one of those. I also really enjoy having those bridges connect in case there is crappy weather, which in this case it was raining. The press conference this year took place at the Fairmont Hotel, just like all the other years. I was able to attend this press conference and it was an absolute blast if you are into distance running and follow elite teams, etc. And I have a whole video of the press conference, the pre-press and post-press conferences on this channel if you want to check that out. After that, I decided to go to pick up my bib. I didn't really want to attend the expo yet because I was going to do that with friends. The big pickup on Friday, it wasn't bad at all. There was no lines. You just kind of had to navigate through the Heinz Convention Center and walk a lot. And they had done that obviously on purpose in case it was going to get busy, which you know it would get busy in a couple of days. Thank you. After that, it was time for lunch, and I met my friend Min, who is a sub-3 hour pacer for the LA Road Runners, whom I've known for a really long time now. We hung out there, went to some other shenanigans, including in the evening time, we attended Bingo by Asics. They had a ton of food, and all of our friends joined in for that. It was quite some fun. After we had enough mocktails in our system, we moved on to go to Marathon Sports. Marathon Sports is a chain of stores on Newbury Street. All of them were hosting all the brands. They had all kinds of events going on. We ran into UCan, who is currently our sponsor for the podcast, and just had a blast listening to live music, etc., trying on some gear. Once we were done there, we decided that it was time to go see the intersection All of you know that the Boston Marathon course makes a right on Hereford, left on Boylston, which is pretty close to the finish line, so we had to go check that out. We kept walking and finally ran into a Bank of America store that had a huge unicorn inside of it. Met some friends there and then took some photo ops with this massive unicorn. Our last stop for the evening, of course, was checking out the freshly painted finish line and taking some pictures, meeting some more friends, and just having a blast in this celebratory moment of having all these people from all over the place that are your running friends be in Boston at the same time. So that wrapped it up for the night. The next day, we decided to go watch the infamous Boston 5K. We had some friends participating in it. However, we knew that at 10,000 people in attendance, we would probably not be able to see them, but it would still be nice to see the elite packs and maybe try to see those friends anyway. The race was amazing. They were all spread out in millions of waves, it seemed like. While we were there, I saw my friend Sarah, which was very exciting since we'd never met in person. After watching all that running and getting inspired, it was time for our own shakeout run. While there were so many to choose from, we chose to go with Rabbit just because the time was convenient enough. It was a 2-mile shakeout, which was perfect for someone who was not trying to race or do anything crazy, and it was fun. After that, Rabbit was hosting screen printing, and they had some breakfast and giveaways. We always like attending Rabbit events. After spending time at Rabbit, we decided that it was time to finally attend the Expo. The Expo, at this point, it was Saturday, was absolutely crazy. There were lines out the door. We were funneled through a whole hall, kind of like cattle, walking and walking through lines and lines just to avoid having an overcrowded expo, which they successfully did. The expo did not feel too crowded. At the same time, the Boston Marathon Expo is not my favorite. I can't pinpoint why. However, every single year there is a booth at the Boston Expo that I will go to very, very gladly. This booth is the hair booth, or where they try to sell you the hair curling iron devices. I am left-handed with those type of devices. I never do my hair, but once a year at the Boston Expo, I do get my hair done. Something that I found very nice to look at was the memorabilia from previous Boston winners. For example, there was a pair of shoes from Bill Rodgers that he had won the Boston Marathon in that they had plated in gold. There was Evans Chebet's bibs, Meb's picture and bib from crossing the finish line when he won the race, and tons of stuff like that. That stuff gets me excited. I left the Boston Expo finally and linked back up with my friend Wes because we were gonna go attend a panel and watch it hosted by Destination Marathons. Chiara D'Amato was gonna be the star guest, and that was very exciting. So in order to get there, we walked through the commons, walked as much as possible, and finally decided that it was time to hop on the subway, which was very easy to navigate, yet it was still a fun experience. Wes and I just always have a fun time together. So once we got to our final destination Marathons, no pun intended, we met up with some more friends from the Speed Strider Facebook group, which was great. I think there was about 5 or 6 of us there. We said hello, and then it was time to watch the panel. The panel was super fun to watch. It was just the right mix of inspiration and jokes that you want these couple of days prior to the marathon. And once that was over, Wes and I had a dinner to attend to, so we said our goodbyes, hopped back on the train, and headed to this amazing dinner that was in honor of Calvin Kiptum, hosted by the Kenyan community of Boston, but also organized by Faith from Chicago for the elites of Ethiopia, Kenya, and Tanzania. And that event was just wonderful. As you can see, the event was great. We made some new friends there, and at the end, it was time to walk back to the hotel and call it a night, because the next morning there was going to be a shakeout run hosted by no other than Puma. Puma always puts on amazing events that usually let you demo some of their newest shoes, and events that also include a shakeout run. Obviously, Puma doesn't make walking shoes. Anyway, so we went on this Puma run, which was great. It was 2 to 3 miles and a good pace, a sunny day, beautiful vibes, you know, anything you want from your shakeout run the day before the marathon. When we headed back, Puma had a ton of food available for the runners prior to hosting yet another panel. On Puma's panel this year, Dakotah Lindwurm, who is the person that will be going and representing the United States at the Olympic, Molly Seidel, and then of course the OG, Bill Rodgers, who used to be wearing Puma shoes during his running career. From there, we headed back to Marathon Sports, specifically to meet with HOKA. I had an appointment to receive a pair of the Skyward X to try out, and also to hang out with some more friends. There was a treadmill I wanted to try out too, which was very interesting. I'm not a treadmill person, but this technology was super advanced. It had a sensor that if you ran faster, it would automatically speed up. Super interesting. While at the HOKA event, I also ran into Cal, who has been a guest on my show before, who was hosting another shakeout run, which I had to skip. At this point, it's already Sunday afternoon, and I know that even if I don't have a goal pace for this marathon, I needed to get off my feet. The best way of doing it on Boston weekend is to head to the Westin and attend Marathon Zone and use those amazing Normatec boots and massage guns, which was exactly what I wanted to do. Once I was done with this session, we went to Eataliy to pick up some pizza and some carbs, to just go back to the room, watch some inspirational marathon movies, and head to bed early. And then there it finally was, race day. The dreaded day, the day I'd anticipated for so long. We headed downstairs to meet friends in the lobby. There was Colin, who runs marathons with me, and Halon, a local runner that is also friends with me and Martin. And we got some breakfast and some stuff from the lobby. There was bananas and bagels, and started our walk to the Commons, where we were supposed to take the bus to Hopkinton. The weather was surprisingly not cold. We didn't need all these extra layers that we of course had brought. Just like any smart runners, it's always great to bring throwaway clothes, but we didn't really need them. The bus lines this year seemed very reasonable. Normally, it feels like there's a lot of pressure to get on and a lot of crowdedness. This morning, or that morning, it wasn't like that at all. It felt like you could kind of take your time to get there. Once we finally boarded the bus, we sat in the bus for about an hour and a half. And I know that you guys that are familiar with this experience know that the bus is not supposed to take that long. What happened was that, just like every year, a bus gets lost. In our case, it was a string of buses that probably just followed each other. We got lost and dropped off a mile prior to the starting line. There was no way they were going to make it navigate to the actual drop-off point, so we were walking. We're in good spirits though. As we were walking, we met one of the iFit trainers. That was kind of cool. She ended up finishing in sub 3. And then we were in Athletes Village. Athletes Village, as you can see, is super crowded when it comes to the lines for the bathroom. So basically, that's all I did. Thank you.
No problem. Good luck.
Thanks. And we are in some of the tents. There's a lot going on. Luckily, the weather is great today. And just like that, it was time to start our race. Our starting wave was the white wave, and they'd already been called, so we headed down towards it. On our way there, as if to be an indicator of how everything was gonna go, there was sunscreen that was being handed out, which I lathered up on because who wants to get burnt on marathon day, right? We walked towards our corral, entered the corral, saw some snipers, which was kind of crazy but also reassuring that people are watching out for us. I made Colin take a pre-race photo because we never do pre-race photos and we always end up separating during the marathon. And then very excitedly, we walked towards the starting line. At this point, it was already in the mid-60s, I want to say. It felt good, but I knew it wasn't going to be a fast run for many people that were trying to PR. At the same time, I was feeling great. I loved this weather and I knew I was going to be in for a fun time. All right, so the race started, and I want to clarify something about the crowdedness that I've previously mentioned in many podcasts and by talking to people. The first time I ran Boston was in 2021. It was the first race back after the pandemic, and Boston had done a rolling start. A rolling start was when all the buses would just drop off the waves, and anyone could start whenever they wanted to. So that race did not feel crowded at all. Ever since then, I've done 2 more Bostons, and both of them had felt really crowded. Last year, 2023, for instance, I ran for the first 5 miles trying to not fall over. I naturally have a great gait going downhill, and it's easy for me, and I don't put on the brake. It was super hard for me within the first 5 miles to not fall over or bump into people. That's how crowded it felt. This year, however, maybe it was because I was in Corral 3, Wave White. I don't know what it was, but it did not feel crowded. I could go at whatever pace I chose to, and that was just super amazing. So now taking that into consideration, next time somebody asks me if Boston is crowded, I guess I'm going to say no this time. I don't know. I guess it depends on the race, your wave, and all that stuff. But it was absolutely beautiful. This year it felt like there was a ton of spectators coming out, and given that the weather was so nice, they were cheering and we were all in good spirits too. I think most runners within the first half of the marathon were still doing great. There was a ton of children, which was really cool. I missed my children at this point of the trip very, very much, and so I made it my mission to high five as many children as possible. And usually when you high five children, there's some adults behind them too that also want a high five. So I don't know how many high fives I got, but like I said, this race was absolutely epic. Towards the half point of the race, you started noticing more and more runners pouring water over their heads. I joined them and I actually felt like, wow, this is really kind of cooling. I had never done that before. And then you could hear it from afar. There was Wellesley. If you're not familiar with Wellesley, they call it the kissing tunnel because there's a ton of girls that have signs that say kiss me, yada yada yada, all that stuff. I high-fived all of them. They were so much fun and so enthusiastic for us runners, which was totally contagious. Pretty close after the halfway mark, I found my friend Raj, who is a blade runner. I was getting a little toasty as well and took advantage of all the popsicles that they were handing out, and they really hit the spot. While I was running, I kept on running into more friends. I shared words of encouragement and positivity. At that point, my amazing head camera had already died, but I'm glad that I had some video footage on my phone that I can share here as well. I ran into my friend Colin, who was on the struggle train because he has a knee injury. I accompanied him to the medical tent to have his knees sprayed in hopes that it would get better, but unfortunately his knee pain did not subside. Heartbreak Hill I found very difficult this year. Heartbreak broke my heart. But not very long after, I saw the infamous Sitco sign up, and for the first time, really ever, I felt kind of sad that this race would come to an end. And just like that, in a blink of an eye, it was time to go right on Hereford, and then left on Boylston, and run down that finish line chute that was amazing, 10 people deep, and just epic. I am so glad that I had my phone on me to capture this moment, because that camera didn't record. Yay! Done! It was a hot one. It was so much fun though. Alright, done with this marathon. Business. It's a beautiful day. It's gorgeous and it's sunny. After showering up, it was time to get some burgers or a veggie burger from Shake Shack. After that, we attended some other events, including we visited Mile 27 Fan Fest. And after that, I walked by the finish line to see some of the people that hadn't finished yet go and cross it, which was super inspiring. I love about the Boston Marathon that they let everybody cross that finish line and give them a medal if available.
And people are still finishing, and it's pretty amazing to see, 7-8 hours after the marathon started, so it's cool.
And that pretty much sums it up. Literally got 70,000 steps in that night. Congratulated a bunch of winners, attended the press conference the next day and a bunch of other shenanigans, looked at some memorabilia, hung out some more with my friend Min in the Sapphire lounge at the Logan airport, and then finally boarded a very late plane with a layover in Philadelphia before coming home and having my dad pick me up. This weekend was absolutely epic. If you are still here, I appreciate you listening along, and I hope that you stay tuned for more videos and hit that subscribe button, they say. Until next time.